Good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord, and in our news, government promises immediate improvements for commuters, a better transportation service and facilities. Police seize marijuana and cocaine in their latest drugs bust. The Fair Trading Commission gets a deadline to determine a fixed rate for electricity supplied to the grid. And in sports, Barbados wins the bid to host the 2020 Pan Am Beach Wrestling Championship.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
And in our top story, the issues plaguing public transportation were the focus of attention when government and sector stakeholders met at government headquarters this morning. Prime Minister Mia Moore-Motley used the opportunity to make it clear her administration is unhappy with the state of affairs and insists that commuters must be better served. Our Ryan Broom is live now with those details. Good evening, Ryan.
Good evening, Lisa. Good evening, viewers. Well, Prime Minister Motley was speaking to officials from both the state-owned transport board and representatives of the privately owned public service vehicles. Ms. Motley says while new buses cannot be rolled out immediately, collectively between the transport board and private operators, there are more than 700 mass transit vehicles that potentially serve the traveling public of Barbados. She says part of the medium and long-term plan is to incorporate some of the privately registered vehicles under the transport board's brand.
We are going to use an approach that calls not just on what government owns, but also the wider ownership of vehicles across those four categories to which I referred just now, and that those persons will work under a decal branded bus that will be transport board branded, but does not require them to go and paint a bus in blue and yellow, because nobody has money in this environment to go and paint, especially when the majority of the buses in any event need to be renewed, and we're going to treat to the question of fleet renewal separately.
And the Prime Minister says some of the details still have to be worked out with private operators at subsequent meetings. She has also identified areas for immediate change. For example, she chided the Transport Board for not doing enough regarding the cleanliness at terminals and communication with passengers about delays and bus availability. The Prime Minister says such mistreatment of the public must cease immediately.
Nobody can tell you that busing a breakdown, but there's nobody holding your tongue. I can't have a bus terminal where people sitting down waiting for hours and nobody don't know whether the bus coming, going, or never coming. And that people have to open their mouths and speak to people and give people the chance to be able to pick up the phone and beg somebody to come for them, or go across the road to the ZR, or to plan out their lives. But this insensitive nonsense of just not saying nothing and then putting them to stay in somewhere. Mercifully, I'm told that by the two ministers that these things are capable of resolution.
Meanwhile, there was also some news for school children regarding their travel on the privately operated vehicles.
Given the fact that we are in the process of amplifying the transport board's provision of vehicles, and that the transport board more and more will be a brand as opposed to literally the owner of vehicles, that we will work to be able to ensure that the privately owned PSVs have agreed that they will not charge school children more than $2.50. In the case of the transport board buses, that $2.50 obviously is paid by government. In the case of the PSVs that are privately owned, not working under the transport board brand, then the school child will pay $2.50.
Now, Lisa, also coming out of that meeting, Chairman of the Transport Board, Gregory Nichols, has acknowledged the fact that the board has fallen down in critical areas of cleanliness and communication, but he says steps are already underway to address the deficiencies.
It is true that the commuters have been having a difficult time and long waits for buses, and we have to try to make that situation a lot more comfortable for people who are in the terminals. Yes, we are not happy with the state of the facilities, particularly the bathroom facilities have been deplorable for a long time. We have done a lot of work in terms of replacing some of the toilets and the seats and so forth, and Minister has indicated that there is money available at the ministry, I think $3 million for the maintenance and the upgrade of the terminals. So we need to make sure that we put that system in place to get the facilities up to scratch.
And Public Relations Officer of the Alliance of Owners of Public Transport, or AOPT, Mark Haynes, says he's generally pleased with the decisions made at today's meeting of stakeholders in the transportation sector. Well, he spoke to CBC News just minutes after emerging from that meeting.
I thought it was timely that the Prime Minister called the meeting. The Prime Minister, in her capacity of Chairman of Cabinet, is very concerned about the system in Barbados. She thinks it's not good enough. She thinks it's very untenable, and rightfully so. And there's a lot of work to be done. We haven't reached an accord on every single item, so we return tomorrow to resume our negotiations. She has stipulated thus far that the school children going forward shall pay $2.50. We're happy about this. We think that this eases the burden for parents who previously would have been paying $3.50 on behalf of their children.
So, Lisa, as you can see, a comprehensive move today to tackle some serious issues in the transportation sector, and still a number of challenges to be discussed when the sides meet again tomorrow at Solidarity House in the morning.
Ryan, were there any other key issues arising from that press conference? What about the whole issue of behavior? That's very topical.
Well, yes, Lisa, the issue of behavior and specifically vandalism came up of both the terminals and the buses. And the Prime Minister says this will also be dealt with. And there was also the announcement of a high-tech approach to ensuring that PSVs especially stay on the routes where they're assigned. Now, Prime Minister Motley has announced that all mass transit vehicles, and that would include both the Transport Board buses and the PSVs, will have to be fitted with GPS systems as just one of the ways to ensure that they're complying with the regulations. And just quickly, finally, they're also having a discount for people who are buying the smart cards at this time. As it stands now, anybody who buys them, whether they're in bulks of 10 or 20, will get them at the $3 rate if they buy them in bulk going forward. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Very comprehensive. Well, in other news now, 3 people are assisting police with investigations following an operation at Pegwell in Christchurch today. The police action targeted areas suspected to be used for the cultivation of cannabis. Now, during the operation, 308 cannabis plants ranging from seedlings to 3 feet in height, weighing about 5.5 pounds with an estimated street value of $11,000 was recovered from a residence in the area. In addition, a quantity of cocaine weighing 10.3 grams with an estimated street value of $500 was also discovered inside that house.
What's Trending is brought to you by Trident Insurance. We treat you like family.
And Sharika is here now to tell us what is trending. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Lisa. And here's what's trending. Sugar daddies. That's right. Public Relations Officer with the Men's Health Group at the Eunice Gibson Polyclinic, James Yearwood, says sexual relationships involving older men and young women are putting these mature men at risk.
You have a lot of older men interacting with younger women. Now, the relationships are like, what was the word we used again? Yes. Intergenerational. But not only just that, it's transactional also. Yeah. Hence the term sugar daddies.
And of course, people on Facebook have been having their say. Larita Zalman questions why women would want a much older man. She says her grandmother always said, never depend on a man, work for what you want. Hal Austin says intergenerational sex or prostitution, call it what you like. And Santini Moore is looking at things from the other perspective. He believes older men who should know better are endangering the health of the young girls they are preying on. Now, Guyana's opposition leader Barat Jagdeo has been having an interesting week. Earlier today, he was questioned by police about several statements he made about the president, prime minister, and another minister last month. And over the weekend, a town hall meeting Mr. Jagdeo hosted in New York finished abruptly after several members of the audience who tried to ask questions had the mic snatched from them by the MC.
Guyana belongs to all of us, ladies and gentlemen, or it will be for none of us. Thank you. But you continue to work with a dangerous reptile. Because your government means... No, let's deal with it. Let's deal with it. PPP, we are meant to be brainwashed, but we're not bold enough to stand up and say what...
And speaking of things that make you go wow, as the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral burned on Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump took to Twitter to offer some advice. POTUS wrote, "So horrible to watch the massive fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Perhaps flying water tankers could be used to put it out. Must act quickly." While the French security forces tweeted back to say, "All means are being used except for water bombing aircrafts, which, if used, could lead to the collapse of the entire structure of the cathedral, and we certainly wouldn't want that." Now, this next video shows just how real sibling rivalry can be. A father-to-be in China decided to film his wife's ultrasound, but I'm sure he wasn't expecting what he saw. The video, which has now been viewed more than 2 million times, shows the fetuses hitting and kicking each other. Take a look. And that's one of those things that you would have to see to believe. Lisa, that's what's trending for this evening. You can find us easily on Facebook, Instagram, and by email. Back to you.
The Immigration Department says that all efforts are being made to repatriate Juan Abraham Ramirez Rijo to his homeland, the Dominican Republic. He was one of 13 people rescued by the crew of a cruise ship en route to Barbados on December 20th last year from a small vessel adrift 47 nautical miles from Puerto Rico. The other 12 people returned to the Dominican Republic after being housed in a detention facility here in Barbados for 2 weeks. Now, efforts to date, however, to return Rijo to his homeland have been hampered as he has no identification or travel documents to confirm his identity or his nationality. Chief Immigration Officer Wayne Marshall has refuted claims that the non-national was kept in handcuffs or restrained at any time, pointing out that's not how people in detention centers are treated. The Integrated Postal Reform and Development Plan for the Barbados Postal Service has been approved by the Cabinet. Minister of Home Affairs Edmund Hinkson announced that under the project, the island's postal sector policy would be developed and the legal framework reviewed and updated. In addition, a range of new services are expected to be added. These include the development of a postal bank, digitization of postal codes, and the establishment of a collection agency for all government monetary transactions. Regional news now. A senior police official in Guyana is warning residents against purchasing mobile SIM cards and handing them over to other people. They have been warned that if the number is linked to any criminal activity, they will be the ones held responsible. We have a report from Television Guyana.
Crime Chief and Deputy Commissioner of Police Lyndon Alves, who bears responsibility for law enforcement in the Guyana Police Force, GPF, says that there are implications of purchasing a SIM card and giving it to another person instead of using it for your own purpose. The process of purchasing a SIM card requires service providers to obtain your proof of address and photo identification. Therefore, if that SIM card is linked to any crime, the person whose name it bears will be held accountable. The crime chief said that there are many cases where persons try to assist a relative or friend in obtaining a SIM card for their cellular phone. However, the Deputy Police Commissioner strongly advises against it.